Good morning, Gail. Another sun beaming morning. And
It,
yeah,
it's rainy in Connecticut.
it is. Well, I'll send you some sunshine from here.
It's okay. I love rainy days. It
Yeah.
fills my soul. It stops me. It slows
Um,
me down.
it's interesting that different weather patterns offer different kind of gifts. The sunshine
Yes.
on one's face, or the the trickle of water on the roof or on a window pane. I being in Vermont, I love the hushed silence of winter mornings where everything sounds more muffled, and it
Yes,
just calms things in its own beautiful way.
I agree. I agree.
Yes.
A friend of mine and I were walking the other day, and we were just laughing that there were cars whizzing by us and people laughing and music playing. And I said, "Oh, I miss the COVID days where no one was out."
I I remember not hearing an airplane, not hardly ever
Right?
hearing a car. It was its own hushed silence, wasn't it? But birdsong offered instead, and
Right. Right.
maybe a frog that you wouldn't pay attention to, or crickets you wouldn't pay attention to normally. So
Yes.
I found it very soothing in its own way that nature had its own symphony to offer. If it was the whistling of the wind in the trees, or a
Mm.
lapping little brook, things we easily overhear. Over
Yes,
here, is it
yes,
not?
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's nice to take that pause
yeah,
now in the hustle and bustle of life that is getting back to it. To stop for a minute and listen again.
exactly. Which I think is the perfect segue into the topic I just shared with you, being the inspiration for me this morning, and you seemed game to explore that. The question of how we can, interesting, the word afford comes. The word afford kindness, not just toward others, but starting with affording kindness towards self. Any thoughts?
Oh gosh, a whole storm just started in a good way.
In a good way.
Um, we forget as caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
as practitioners, as healers, as humans, that what we advise, that we suggest, that we encourage, we forget to turn it inside, that we
Mm.
can take the pause and listen to the bird or the um, frog in the pond.
Yeah.
But we're so quick in saying, "Oh, would you? How would you feel about listening to that frog?" Or how would you feel? How would I feel?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
We don't often reflect that back to ourselves, to be in that quietness, in that peacefulness, in that lovingness.
Yes.
So I think this is a powerful topic.
And you mentioned, being in this line of work where it comes with a territory to give so much of self. How can we possibly do so um, not just model what we preach, but live it because it makes so much sense, right? And it's a prerequisite to actually being able to being present with another. How can we be present with another if we can't be present with ourselves? If we can't stand our own company, how can
Oh,
we embrace the company of another, no matter where they might be? And for me, I played a little bit this morning with the concept of kindness versus compassion. And for me, kindness is another, vibrationally it feels like it's a purer, lighter level of frequency than compassion. compassion already has a bit of a weightedness to it, right? Where kindness, even the word sounds lighter. I'm sitting up straighter as I'm saying this word.
Yes.
And kindness is not a one-sided thing. In its essence, it almost has built in the reciprocity, but in its essence. If I am kind to self, how can I help but being kind to others? If I, vibrate on that level as my entire being, it just expands outward naturally without me having to push it, without me having to make it happen, without me having to think about it. It just is part of the essence that I'm literally exuding. And then everybody's taken care of in a way that's not overpowering. It just is an offer. Then we offer the surplus of kindness that just kind of spills through us and out of us, and whoever is willing, ready, and able to receive it can do so without us being diminished. And I read a blurb the other day, and I can't remember where I read it, but this idea of once we're in that frequency of being, we are naturally nourished from an infinite source of kindness, in this case, a source of energy that does not diminish. It almost is, the more we flow it out, the more it follows back in. It's like we're opening the channel, and it's through by its flowing through us, it nourishes us and then spills over into the world. And I love that concept. Talking about ease of being, and yeah.
I appreciate that so much. I think that that's always a goal. From my experience, that's not always where it starts.
Yeah.
I think as a woman, as a caregiver, as most people, I don't have the honor of being a mom to a human, but as most moms will experience, that you give first and then it's time for you, or it's easier to give than to, okay, I don't have time to sit and really experience that beautiful sun on my face. There's always a cycle that has to happen, and I think that that's our lesson, that we can have that for ourselves, but it doesn't always come that easy. It's not always the first thought for me. I think that that's what made me a great basketball player. I was able to give and shine you.
Yeah.
And then I was able to make more plays. But it was, it's easier for me to get you to talk, for you to draw your experiences and to draw your strengths and to draw your intuition. And then I can still be in the flow, and I can give what I have and share my gifts with you. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and she said after 10 or 15 minutes, oh my God, I haven't stopped talking, and I just stepped over you. And I said, no, you didn't step over me. I was in the loop. I was in that conversation with you. I was just putting things in, putting my thoughts in as they needed to be. I didn't need to be the conversation. I was just shining light on you. I was adding my wisdom for you. And we got into that cycle of, I was certainly shining. Yeah. But I wasn't the headlight. Yeah. So and I don't have to be. And I don't have to be able to love myself. But going back to the lesson, that you can love yourself and not diminish the love for someone else, or the light that someone else has. But it's not always my first step for thought of myself. It's easier to have thought of someone.
Thank you for sharing this. So much has come up as you were speaking. Firstly, having had two children, I was amazed of the wisdom of my body as I was carrying these kids. I didn't always listen to it. My mind, I was in a very busy corporate job during that time, and if I had to redo it, I would listen to my body now.
Sure.
For my own sake and theirs and everybody else's. I've come to the conclusion myself that the patterns of we have to give before we can receive is an out of balance mind construct that has created a lot of the hardship that we are experiencing. It being glorified to give. And you mentioned particular women and mothers, but I think it's true for men in their own way also, and
Absolutely.
often
Absolutely.
overlooked how much they give and not realize how they're depleting themselves. And it's this depleting that then kind of sends in the bill at the end of the cycle, right? Because then we're limping along and we're needing some kind of a support that our healthy body would not necessarily need. And I'm not poo-pooing that, I'm not making it wrong, because everything is an experience that has its own lessons, as you pointed out. My big lesson right now is to release that mindset that was so one-sided heavy and out of balance for me as an individual, and experimenting with, if I am truly kind to self, am I adding to the lightness that I want to see in the world, or am I diminishing it? And I come more and more to seeing I'm adding to the lightness. And as you pointed out in this conversation with your friend, giving is not always the downloading a whole slew of information with another. Giving is as the being present with another as they are processing. What a wonderful gift. And what a gift to self, to allow self to be present with another while they're downloading, because they're not just downloading for themselves, they're also giving us potentially insight that we hadn't considered before. And so when you think of it in a physics way of a closed circuit, there is no giving and receiving. It's all the same flow. And or if you think of the water cycle in the world, it's the same water floating through in different forms and cycling and flushing and moving. And the point is to stay in that flow. And by my old pattern of giving, but then putting up my hands when somebody wanted to give something to me, I was stopping the flow. And I was so busy making everything right for everybody else, right in quotes because it was my own agenda of right. I was overlooking their need to be in the giver position.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. I think a big lesson for me, and I'm sure for others, is to be able to receive a compliment and just say thank you.
Yes.
Don't say, oh, it was nothing. I always do. Because I stop you from that gift of giving that gratitude to me.
Yes.
And I have never in all of my years understood that. So it's the words thank you do not roll off my tongue. But I'm making it more intentional to receive that someone appreciated that. Someone really wanted or needed or really was grateful for what I had. And I say thank you. And it's a big lesson, and I know that it doesn't always come, as my first thought, but it's I think just being present, and that is putting the light back on me in caring for me and loving for myself, allowing someone else to be that for me.
Yes.
And I think those are great lessons. And I think that having the light shine on both of us,
yes,
is really very powerful in humbling,
yeah,
to be in that light.
You know, you mentioned the gift of receiving something, and the thank you itself is a gift in itself. I had this beautiful visual given to me of, imagine you have a friend and you pick out the perfect gift for them, or you come across something that you're like, oh, that's so this person. You know, next time I see this person, I'm wrapping this beautifully with a nice bow and a nice card, and I'm so excited to give that gift to that person. And then imagine the person saying, oh, no, I can't receive anything. And the letdown of that moment that was so exciting. And the other piece that was so valuable and still is, a professional organizer who taught the only thing is required in the receiving of a gift is a thank you. Nothing more, nothing less. What you do with the gift that you've received is up to you. You don't have to answer to anyone about that. But this receiving a gift and saying thank you, it's almost like it closes the circuit.
Sure, I see that now.
And how many circuits we leave open in our world by not dancing this dance that's so elemental in our humanness of giving and receiving.
That's beautiful. That's just a beautiful image. The dance and the eloquence of giving and receiving and allowing and being allowed.
So being 20 minutes into our recording, is this a good place to wrap up this session? And do you have kind of a parting thought that you want to offer in addition to what you already shared?
I think just the words allowing and allow are just going to be so profound for me this week.
Yes.
I'll take note of how it's happening and really be more intentional on that it happens.
Yes.
So thank you.
And for the listener, I'll put in the notes on the YouTube the name of the professional organizer, because I want to give her credit for this wisdom that she gave me. So thank you, Gail. I'll close the recording now. I appreciate your presence.